Hello and welcome. Today's talk is called Hostile Brothers, the Instinct to Labor. And it gets back to the archetypal story in the Holy Bible in Genesis, when the earliest stories in Genesis is of Cain and Abel, the brothers Cain and Abel, as Jordan Peterson terms them, the hostile brothers, where Cain's sacrifice was not pleasing to God because he didn't put in enough labor to make his sacrifice pleasing to God, whereas Abel was the one that was I gave a worthy sacrifice because he labored. Abel was a shepherd, Cain was a farmer, but it wasn't in the distinction between their jobs. It was in one working harder than the other and giving an acceptable sacrifice, the other one not working, probably not laboring very hard. And this is what this talk is about: the spirit of stupor, the spirit of dissipation, the spirit of the anti-gospel. It is an evil spirit. The spirit not to work, the spirit to, as we'll get into here, the spirit not to labor, not to work, not to make acceptable sacrifices. As we covered in my last video, men leave works behind. I covered that men are known by their character and their works are tied up, right? It's often that I say my pastors, it's not any one sermon that they give that I say that's I will follow you because you gave a good sermon here. It's over time they show that they recurringly show their works. They do a good sermon after good sermon. They do good leadership after good leadership, and over time that works is their character, and it's the character that I follow. With anybody, it's the character that you follow. It's a reputation. The reputation speaks to the character, but it's their works that build the character. And so when you see a repeated iteration of many good works, then you follow that person because they have a good character. So just starting here, if you knew my background, my history, I'm in southwestern Ontario. I was socialized in a small town of 11,000 people called Wallaceburg. It was named after the Scottish folk hero William Wallace. It's a small town of 11,000 people, and it was a Rust Belt town. It was a manufacturing and mold making town, and it's part of the. It would be part of the Rust Belt if it was in the U.S. It'd be part of the Rust Belt because it had many factories that left and went over to China, and a lot of hard working labor and people, manual labor, but also factory labor, and it was a manufacturing town. It used to produce glass in the 70s and 50s and 70s. It used to be called Glass Town for all the glass that it produced. But then it moved into mold making, manufacturing, and many of those shops went overseas. And it's a hard done by town, and there's a lot of good old boys in Wallsburg. It's known for its good old boys. You know what I mean? Boys that men, they're really boys, but the men that drink all the time and do drugs, smoke Mary Jane, do lots of beer, drink lots of beer. And that's the whole point that I'm getting into here. If you knew my background and my friend circles were very much a part of this, I hung out with bad people when I was younger, people that turned out to be wicked in the end. And they followed these patterns that I'll set out here. It is a masculine instinct to labor. So that's my background. Wallsburg, good old boys, heavy drinking, six tall boys a day on average, smoking Mary Jane, doing other drugs and hard drugs, and that's my background. And I did never like the drugs. I did one drug one time, and I smoked marijuana on occasion, but I never liked it. And I never was a big drinker, so I don't know why I hung around with people I hung around with. It's kind of a mischievous period of my life up to the age of 25 where I hung out with a bad crowd, and I'm culpable because I assented to it. But this is a spirit that, with reflection at the age of my age of 30, I'm reflecting on what the exact spirit of dissipation and stupor is that I'm describing here. It is a masculine instinct to labor, but there is a spirit of stupor and dissipation when someone spends their time not laboring but drinking if you're drinking 4 to 6 tall boys of beer each day, or they never have read a nonfiction book in their life or the Bible. They've never read either nonfiction or failing nonfiction. They never read the Bible. This is what I'm talking about. When you and it gets into here too, not just drugs and alcohol, but video games. Too many video games, too much television, too many movies. Just not working and filling the time with idle chatter and idle babbling, idleness, stupor, dissipation. This is the Antichrist spirit. It's the Antichrist spirit that says, I don't need to work on myself. I don't need to produce good works. I'm good enough in myself. I don't need to labor, right? So this is what I'm saying. this is what I always come back to, is that with my friend groups, whenever I was talking with them, none of them have ever read a nonfiction book or read the Holy Bible. We weren't Christian. We were atheists, but none of them had read a nonfiction book. And I read voluminously nonfiction books. I've probably read over 200, 250 to 300 nonfiction books in my life. It's hard to quantify because my attention bleeds over many books I haven't finished, but I've read into them. But basically, I'm a big reader of nonfiction, and these guys who never read one nonfiction book. I don't know why I hung out with them, but when I was talking to them, I always had this unconscious assumption that their viewpoint was valid. It's strange. I always thought, yes, you're. I will try. I try to meet them on their own terms and try to share my viewpoint with them and explain to them, yes, this is why Western civilization is the way it is. This is what's going wrong in politics today. This is what is wrong with the Europeans today in North America. All of these things, and they would either call me delusional or racist or crazy, or they would call me delusional, racist, or crazy, or they would just say you're weird or something like that. I was always trying to meet their view. I always assumed that their viewpoint was valid, and I internalized it and said, what do they think of me is important. I used to think that what they thought of me was important, so I try to bring them around in my viewpoint, and it never worked because they would always lambast me and disparage me because they couldn't understand what I was saying to them. But why was it? My question is, if they had never read one book and I've read 300, and they've never read one and I've read 300, why would I take any of their viewpoints seriously? If they've never read, or failing reading, some people aren't that literate, but they can at least anybody can read the Holy Bible. And further, if you aren't, my dad isn't that literate, but my dad still makes an effort in the winter to read one book each winter, even though he's not very literate. I'm very proud of him for that. He read the Gulag Archipelago, and he read the Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. He's read some serious history books that took me a long time to read, and he read them over the winters over many years. And he's a hard landscaper labor. I have his shirt right here, Wolford Landscaping. But why am I taking their viewpoint seriously if they've never read a book, or or if you're not literate? At least you have a business yourself and you've labored hard, and you know a craft. You know a craft. You can work very hard. You know a craft. You know a skill set that's acceptable. That's a good hard done by labor. I respect a man that owns a business, or a man that has providing for his family, or a man that whatever. I don't denigrate just for the literary side, the literacy side of it. But for these people that they neither have demonstrated very much work on themselves on their own self in business or otherwise, or a craft or a trade or a general trade, and on top of that, they've never read a nonfiction book. Why do we treat their dialogue as if they have something valuable to say? Why are we assuming that their viewpoint is valid at all? It's a case that most of their dialogue is garbage. Most of their ideas are there's no root, there's no grounding to them, there's no basis to them, there's no grounding or root to them, there's no value system, and they end up standing for nothing but their own sin and wickedness. That's what I find. They don't stand for Western civilization, they don't stand for democracy, they don't stand for Christianity, any of these three things. Not standing for Western civilization and not standing for Christianity, whereas I very heavily root myself on standing for both those things, primarily Christianity, and then always for my life, Western civilization. And they would not stand for anything except their own right to rebel and be wicked and smoke Mary Jane and drink like a fish, and do drugs and alcohol. Right, the hostile brothers. This is the instinct of stupor and dissipation. And I'm saying, if Abel was talking with Cain, why would Abel take anything that Cain said seriously when Cain has never demonstrated that he can do a proper sacrifice of work and labor, right? So I'll get into here. I've seen this through my life. Classmates who cannot prepare a single sentence. I had one classmate who he tried to do a presentation. He didn't try. He didn't do anything. He didn't. It's supposed to be on World War One, but he didn't prepare one sentence to prepare. He got up and said, "I didn't do anything," and he sat back down. And now he's a Freemason. Ironically, this makes sense actually. He's a Freemason now, so it makes sense that he never wanted to work, and he wanted me to join the Freemasons. I'm thinking, you never done any work. It's part of the club that I wouldn't want to join, right? I've seen this through my life. Classmates who cannot prepare a single sentence to present, or can't fill out a single worksheet in their homework, nor do they do better in just manual labor like shop class or working or general labor or anything, or trades or anything. They don't do better as manual labor. Often they have severe drug and alcohol, and I understand how easy alcohol is to get involved with. I almost became an alcoholic myself, but after 25, you got to quit alcohol. After 25, you got to quit alcohol totally. Zero tolerance. Cut alcohol totally out, not even a little bit. Wine on special occasions with family is fine, but if you're drinking a one beer, get non-alcoholic beer. There's good non-alcoholic beers if you like the taste of beer. But zero, I have a zero tolerance alcohol policy now for myself. But what I'm saying is, these classmates don't do any work. They don't excel at anything. They don't do any labors anywhere, and this will close with, they end up standing for nothing but their own sin, wickedness, and rebellion. They stand for their own right to rebel, is what it comes down to. They stand for their own right to drink like a fish. They stand for their own right to smoke as many drugs as they want. They end up standing for nothing. So whereas I stand for Western civilization and Christianity, and I work to prove that every day, my character is in my works. My character is in my works, just like my pastors who I followed, because their works prove their character. I think it's in the Bible. It says, "By their fruits you shall know them." So a tree, you know a tree by its fruits. By its fruits you shall know them. So I'm trying to display good works on YouTube here and in my testimony, my witness, in my regular life. But they don't stand for anything. They don't stand for Christianity or Western civilization. They only stand for their own right to rebel and sin and wickedness and dissipation and stupor. Right? They're not serious people. They're not serious people, as Sam Hyde says. If you're drinking or smoking marijuana, you're not a serious person. They're not serious people, and in fact, they stand for evil. Men who work are known for their work. Men who work are known for their works. We are known for our works as Christians. We're known for our works. By their fruit you shall know them. By the fruit you shall know a tree. Right? That's biblical. I forget where it is in the New Testament, but that's what they say. And so, even if you come out of a background where people are running to this spirit of the Antichrist, spirit of the anti-gospel, spirit of rebellion and wickedness and sin, standing on sin and rebellion and wickedness, you can come out of it and you can do good works. Just make clear-cut cuts in your life, discipline in your life, and it's the road of working is much harder. It's the widest way and easiest way that leads to destruction. Right? It's easy to drink 5 tall boys a day. It's easy to watch television for 3 hours a day. It's easy to smoke drugs every day. It's easy. That's the easy thing to do. It's harder to be a disciplined Christian, to demonstrate your works and your character. And like I say, but it's the fruit of life. It's the warm center of light that everybody crowds around in this life. Is the pastors, the Christians that work hard, that either raise a family, or they learn a trade, or they do manual labor, but they work hard at it. They provide for the family. They tithe to the church. And your character, as I said before, your character is tied up in your works. Your character is your works, not a works-based righteousness, but show me your faith and I'll show you my works. And it's works to build character, and it's character that inspires hope. Right? It's my looking to my pastors, not by not by any one of their sermons, but by looking to them and saying, "I trust you because I've seen you over and over again deliver a good sermon. Work hard for this church. Labor hard for the men at this church." And it is true that if you join a faith group of men, you will want to work hard to share it with them, to share your works with them, to share your character with them, to demonstrate your character to them. Know and labor with and for the men at your church, and it could be any type of job, any capacity that you're good at, right? But this is a Hostile Brothers, the Instinct to Labor, just a whirlwind tour of everything that I've learned over my years. I was socialized as a good old boy in Wallaceburg. If you knew Wallaceburg, it's a hard done by town, hard luck town, like Flint, Michigan, only on a smaller scale. And this is the truth. This is the truth of it all. I hope this is good for you. It's good for me. In the name of Jesus Christ, bless your works. I'll be praying for you. In Jesus' name, God bless you. Amen. Take care. Bye bye.